Hello everyone and welcome to Grade My 1119. You send me your essays and I will grade them together with you on YouTube based on SPM 1119 standards, so you can see where you are and how you can improve. Now take a look at this video image. Pretty good, isn't it? Beautiful. This camera is sponsored by Canon and it's the M200 camera. If you are looking for an easy, seamless webcam to use for your video conferencing or for your online lessons, do check them out. You can get video quality just like this. Today we have an essay from SMK USJ 12 in Subang Jaya, Selangor. Now let's look at the topic for this essay. Imagine you are president of one of the Commonwealth's 31 small states and you have been invited to give a speech on climate change to other leaders. So this is a speech on climate change. Let's take a look. What comes in your mind? What comes to mind? After listening to the word climate change. Climate change, you need the quotation marks, and these are two words. After listening to, I think hearing would be better because listening kind of connotates agency. What comes to mind after hearing the words climate change? For me, it is obviously we, as we are the reason why those innocent animals and up in the streets. This thing doesn't really happen often. So you're probably referencing something specific and you will need to put in a lot more work to help regular people like me understand what you mean. Because when I read this, nothing is coming to mind and I'm wondering like, what are you talking about? So the yellow parts, you have to explain. We are the reason why blood squirts out from their throats at slaughter farms. Slaughterhouses. You don't slaughter in farms. They get moved to places called slaughterhouses. And we are the reason why tons of people die with intense pain and suffering as the multiple effects of climate change start to take over this world. Take over, take effect in this world. This is tons of people die with intense pain. I think you will need to do some work to explain this one. Because I'm not really sure what you mean by this. When I read this, it's really hard for me to get to what you're trying to say. So you might need to rephrase this to give a more specific example if possible. I'm sure you're referring something specific. So talk about that. Like why Ethiopians have to, or why Malaysians have to, die with intense pain because of something caused by climate change. Okay, so you got to be more specific, especially with these examples here. I believe that you are referencing something, some kind of event that happened in the world. These two yellow parts here. So you got to be specific, okay? Otherwise, it'll be kind of blur. I don't know what you're talking about. But what I like is from the very beginning, you're going for something graphic. You're going for the shock effect. And yeah, this is gripping. These horrifying things are all mainly caused by us, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. Yeah, good. Instead of leaders, let's put a comma here for good measure. We should call ourselves liars for not keeping the promises. Okay, I think this is supposed to be connected, yeah? Come on, proofreading. We should call ourselves liars for not keeping the promises. Yeah, you really need to proofread this. Come on. The promises that we have given to the innocents. Who are the innocents? Hopefully you address this in the next sentence. If not, then yeah, you will need to rephrase this. When it comes to the situation where we must face the press, Face the press. This is not an English saying. Maybe you should say like, we must answer questions from the press, or we must give a press conference. All we give is fake hopes. All we give is fake hope to those people out there who are desperately calling for help, as they are struggling to keep their heads above the watery grave that is waiting to swallow them whole, and while their skin is starting to get intertwined. While their skins are starting to get intertwined with their clothing, and the smell of overcooked flesh starts to disperse in the air because of the heat. Okay, very graphic. Shock value is continuing in this paragraph. I think you're referencing something in your last sentence. The watery grave getting intertwined with their clothing. Overcooked flesh. You might be referencing something that is happening in the world, or that you think will happen in the world. You will need to be more specific. Yeah, I understand what you mean by the watery grave, but to make this a stronger point, you can talk about the Solomon Islands or one of those islands. The shock value is there, yes. But when I read this, I'm wondering what you are talking about and what you're referring to. And that is important, because you don't want me to be thinking like, okay, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to mean? Is this something that has happened? Is this something that will happen? It's not really that clear. It's still very figurative. So you will need to put in some sentences here that state what you mean, like maybe a thesis sentence or an elaboration. The planet is now filled with trash, corpses of humans and animals that are deep in the ground, plastics, and a treeless planet. The planet is now filled with a treeless planet. When you create lists like this, you want to try your best to be as uniform as possible. So I would suggest you go with trash, plastics, and then you use this at the end. The planet is now filled with trash, plastics, and corpses of humans and animals that are deep in the ground. Full stop. And I think a treeless planet, you need to move it. Can put it here. The planet is now a treeless planet filled with trash, plastics, and corpses of humans and animals that are deep in the ground. Yeah, that'll be better. The time has come to start cleaning our mess. Not just minor changes, but major changes, as we only have 10 years from being in a position where we set an irreversible chain reaction beyond human control, according to an IPCC report. Okay, this sentence needs to be broken down. It's a little bit too much being put into one sentence. The time has come to start cleaning our mess. Cleaning up our mess. We require major changes, not just minor changes. So you need to move this here. As we only have 10 years left, being in a position from setting off an irreversible chain reaction beyond human control, according to an IPCC report. What is the IPCC? This is the first time that I'm seeing this in your essay, and you will need to explain what they are and who they are. So if that's distracting, you might need to remove this whole part here. Carbon tax should be increased. If we have carbon tax right now, so carbon tax should be increased. Amount of fine should be increased. I think what you mean is fine amounts, right? The money that we charge people for doing bad things. That's the fine amount. Fine amounts should be increased. Renewable energy should be supported, and many more that we can and should do. You're putting the subject and the verb at the very end of a sentence, which is fine for certain languages, but in English it's problematic. And we can and should do much more. The only thing that will help us to overcome climate change is to start looking at this world from a different perspective, in a sense of urgency and in the sense of necessity. From a different perspective, with a sense of urgency and necessity. Thousands of scientists around the world, thousands, have already agreed that climate change is real, so we have no more excuses to give. We might constantly feel overwhelmed and agitated, but remember, it would all be worth it at the end of the day by looking at the positive results. What positive results? We might constantly feel overwhelmed and agitated because of what? So you're like jumping a few steps, and you need to like hold my hand and lead me into your argument. You will need to do like 1 or 2 more sentences before this yellow one, explaining what actually is your point here. Why would we feel overwhelmed and agitated? It's because of the corrective measures that we are taking. Say it. But remember, it would all be worth it at the end of the day by looking at the positive results. What do you mean by positive results? But when you say by looking at positive results, that means that they are already existing right now, positive results that we should all be looking at. Okay, so maybe what you have to do here is just promises. It is time that we let students get back to class instead of protesting on the streets. It is time that the younger generation stops having nightmares about their future. And it is time that we start acting instead of thinking about internal economic growth. Thank you. So you will need to be specific. Led by Greta Thunberg. You need to be more specific. And over here, before you give your concluding statement, you might want to summarize your points. Like reiterate your points in summary in 2 or 3 sentences. Okay, this is why we need to do this. So this is the time. Those of you watching, what do you think is the suitable grade for this essay? Think about it. Now, looking at the paragraph here, you can see that a lot of changes need to be made to the sentence structures. And even in the first paragraph itself, there are a lot of errors relating to sentence structures and vocabulary. In this situation, definitely this essay is not getting an A. Looking at the accuracy of this essay as a whole, I would disqualify this essay for B as well. This could very much be a low C essay or a high D essay. I would say it's a low C. Because I can really, from reading this, I can tell that this person has a lot of knowledge, is able to express themselves using English. The idea comes through pretty well. So I would say this is a low C. Tell me what you think. Thank you very much to this student from SMK USJ 12, Subang Jaya, for sending me this essay. If you would like to see your essay graded on YouTube by me, send it to this email address that you see on the screen. If you like content like this, please like this video and subscribe for future updates. I will see you next time for the next Grade My 1119. Bye!